On this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast, how do we get the ghosts Adderall?
And dag nabbit, it's Dagon! Let's do this.
Welcome to this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast. I'm Diana.
And I'm Liz.
And we're going to talk about season 12, episode 13, Family Feud.
The family is a feuding. Not really. I don't think the family's feuding.
Does this name even make sense for this episode? I don't know.
It's according to the wiki, it's just like it's the same name as the game show, which
Huh.
They don't play the game show. I don't know. I mean, I guess because there's a family. I mean, the McLeods are kind of. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the closest thing to it.
Yeah. What have you been up to?
Yeah, I feel like I've been really busy, but I'm like, what have I done? Oh, we went shopping for a mirror and paint and came home with a headboard and a mattress because then I did not get a mirror or paint. That was my super exciting time. We went to from friends invited us to sit at their table at a fundraiser for a kids camp, and it was very gala-y, and we got to put on cowboy chic attire and go bid on expensive stuff and eat a nice dinner with friends. And then I went and watched a cheerleading exhibition for my niece. That's my excitement. I think that's all I got. I don't know. Work's been stupid. I mean, good. We're stupid, but I've been busy.
That's
busy. Yeah. How about you?
I watched The Burbs, which was really good. Yes. So I think that was, I don't want to say it was a home run, but I honestly don't remember. I need to go back and rewatch the movie, but I wanted to finish watching the series before I rewatch the movie. And the movie is also in this new book that I got about the Satanic Panic, and it's really great. I wish I had it in front of me so I could tell you who the authors were, but I just got a signed copy of his book that's full of all of this like really great, all the things that were happening in the 80s and 90s that were considered evil, and just all the backstory behind it. So it's a really cool book. But anyways, so yeah, so this new version of The Burbs I thought was really well done. And that was like the only thing I could watch because the fucking Olympics were still on. So I'm really glad that the Olympics are finally over and we can get back to regular fucking television.
Really? I enjoyed the Olympics.
I don't give a shit about the Olympics. I don't care about nationalism. And for the most part, like, it's a bunch of people playing sports. I don't care about sports.
Love it. I was cheering for, we got a little alternate, well, she's not even a teen anymore, but a little alt girl that ice skates and her hair is really cute, Alyssa Liu, and she got gold. And then we had double hockey wins. It was good stuff.
But also it's just this whole we shit, and like but it's not you. It's someone else put in this work. It's not your country. I don't know. It's like, I don't get that rooting for sports teams. That's not me. I'm not a joiner. I have a phobia. What was it? Phobia. Fear of being included. So I'm just glad it's done because now we can go back to regular scheduled programming. There hasn't been any new TV. There hasn't any of my morning routines are all fucked up because the Daily Show was going off schedule and everyone was going off schedule and stuff. Blah. So I just need things to be in a routine and ordered. And when you have things that mess up your regularly scheduled programming, like 3 weeks of the Olympics, it's annoying.
Oh, I'm drinking my wine out of my silver goblet instead of golden goblet in homage to the current season of Love is Blind. So there we go. That's my trash watching.
And it's very good that you have your trash TV that you're watching. Whatever makes you happy.
You know why they drink out of the metal glasses? They always use them. It's for continuity. So when they edit the fuck out of every conversation, you can't tell how empty or full their drinks are. Boom. There you go.
Oh, cool. I'm glad it's not so they're getting silver poisoning. Anyhow, all right. So Speaking of stupid television, no, I don't think that's quite right. But so speaking of dumb no, still not. No, we love this show. So we're going to talk about, again, Family Feud. Before we do that, there's still no news on the Ackles or Padalecki's radar. I was telling Diana, their publicists are really getting like behind the game. Like they need to get some things out there. I need to check their numbers on IMDb to see where they're ranking. I bet they've fallen. Jensen was so high up, and I bet he's gone down.
Oh, maybe. I bet Padalecki will pop up when that new movie drops, but
probably. And if The Boys ever comes out, and if Vault Rising ever comes out, then Jensen will get back up. So look forward to that happening. Whenever that happens, maybe that should happen soon. Just saying. Okay, so this was season. So going back to this episode, this was season 12, episode 13. It first aired February 23rd, 2017, and it was directed by PJ Pesci. We haven't seen PJ do anything this season. The last time PJ was around was with season 10, episode 18, Book of the Damned. But this was written by the duo Brad Buckner and Eugenie Ross-Lemming. And while they haven't done anything this season, last season they did Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Hell's Angel, and close to the end, the All in the Family one.
Okay.
So they've some of this canon they are familiar with, but we're gonna get some interesting canon this episode, I will say. So we start off with our recap, and we have a British Men of Letters pitch, and then Abby is there, hooray! And then we're reminded that Crowley has a kid named Gavin that we haven't seen in a while, and then we're reminded that if you change time, there's going to be a big ripple effect. But was there? And then we're reminded about the Princess of Hell and princess, not the princesses. The princess of hell, and their yellow eyes, and then Lucifer's got a bun in the oven, and Rabiel's sister Dagon. So we have all that stuff to get reminded of. But then we are going back in time again. We're going another flashback to learn something that we didn't know. Well, but kind of.
Yeah.
So we're going to Andover, Mass. 6 months ago, and I got tired of typing Massachusetts and just started writing Mass a lot. Just gonna say, Massachusetts is too long to type.
It's a long word. And a woman is walking through her house, brushing her teeth, and something is clearly following her in the hallway, but she does not see. And we see it hide in a closet, and she goes in the closet and hangs a dress, and there is so much suspense for nothing.
Well, they're doing a whole bunch of implied jump scares, right? And they are doing...
I hate a jump scare.
Yeah, and so they'll do it... they were doing it complete with, like, music cues and all going to be... So she's going to go in the closet and something's going to happen, and so it's not. So and then she gets into the bed and she turns off the lamp, and she is a single lady who is sleeping in the middle of the bed, and I am so impressed. I sleep alone. The cat gets that spot. Like, I don't get to be in the middle of my bed, but I'm so impressed with her just doing that that starfish right in the middle of it. But a jump scare finally does happen when hands come up from upside her mattress and hug her with its claws.
Yeah, I made Dave go check under the mattress. I made him watch it with me, and I made him go check under the mattress since we just bought a new one. I'm like, I'd make sure there's not a monster in our mattress, sir.
So it's just in there. That's a new thing to worry about. Now you have to worry about the monster like being in your closet. Now it's in your mattress.
In your mattress.
Is this worse than bed bugs?
Maybe. Well, might be easier to get rid of.
I think I'd rather have the mattress hug.
It might be
I would rather
easier
have
to
the
get rid
mattress
of.
hug from the ghost.
At least we know how to get rid of those. I mean, like there's one shot usually.
But it really sucks. So I don't think I ever want to go through it again. I think I may need to do that, like some EMDR over my bed bug thing with my psychiatrist, just to like really move past that. So, so we get some blood splatters. Right? We go into our title card, and then we're going to the bunker and present day.
Yes. And Sam's doing research, and Dean gets off the phone with Castiel. He's reporting he still has no trace of Kelly Klein. And Sam's like, look, I found this case in Des Moines. A teacher's body was found with no tongue and its organs crushed. And Dean's like, oh, that's crazy. We should call Mom to come with us. And so we see Mary killing a monster, a Rougarou, we find, with a really crazy weapon that, like, I don't know, shoots some, like, sound waves at it or something. And Mr. Ketch is there timing her. And so she kills this monster. She answers Dean's call, and she's like, oh, yeah, I'm at a motel outside Newark. I've just been resting up after the Ramiel thing. And I'm like, you liar.
She is lying. She is.
And even Mr. Ketch calls out that she's an excellent liar. And she's like, look, no, I don't, she tells him that Sam and Dean don't know that she's working with Man of Letters. And so he's like, talking about her being, because they tortured Sam and Dean. And he's like, oh, that was our rogue operator. And that tortured them. It wasn't Men of Letters. Not convinced.
Yeah, so we go from there to Crowley's lair, and there he is lecturing Lucifer about how he will break him down to call him master. And we learn that his chains are made from the same material as the cage, and we get a flashback to see how this happened. So back when Rowena was doing her spell to send Lucifer back to his cage, Crowley fucked with that, and they were able instead to send him back to the discarded vessel, which they'd found years ago, and they had it altered so it would be a better vessel for Lucifer. So they made a bigger, better Lucifer.
Sounds like a terrible plan.
It sounds really dumb. And Lucifer finally does start talking, and like all of us, thinks that this petty revenge choice, instead of putting him back in the cage, is really stupid.
Yeah, it's bad when even he's saying that, right?
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so Sam and Dean are driving. And while they're driving, they're discussing the fact they also found a case of another woman with the same murder 6 months ago, who both of the victims were teachers. And Dean's all bummed that Mary's not there or coming with them. He's convinced something's up. And Sam's like, no, hunting's a grind. She just needs to rest. Hunting's a grind.
It is. It is a grind. And sometimes you just gotta grind. And so we go from there to the shipwrecks of New England in Des Moines, where a scoutmaster is directing kids into a van. And so he leaves these children to go to the bathroom. I hope there is another adult there.
I hope there's another chaperone, for real.
And the power flickers, and this man pees so fast. Like, I don't even understand. Like, you don't need to go to the bathroom, sir. Like, this is the second episode where I'm really commenting on the pees of the show. But this was just like, it was fast.
It was just a forced pre-trip pee, because he didn't want to have to pee on the road.
I don't know. It just seems like he didn't need to go into that bathroom. He could have held it. So, but thankfully he does wash his hands. And then in the stalls, the doors start to go back and forth. And then everything freezes up, like really freezes up.
The running water out of the sink freeze up, which is pretty cool effect, honestly.
It was.
And instead of running, he just keeps inspecting this. I don't know. I think I would run.
Well, fight or flight or freeze. Literally freeze. I guess. Sometimes literally. She does freeze.
Well, then it's implied that he's attacked, and that's all we see.
Yeah. And so we're going to be there again, but later in the daytime. And Sam and Dean are all fetted up, and they're talking to a professor, and we learn that the scouts were timber troopers.
Timber troopers. And Dean's asking if there's anything else new to the museum recently, and it's Dr. Daisy Ochoa is like, recently unboxed all these exhibits, and you should go take a look.
Yeah, there's 3 new exhibits there, and Dean hits up in the EMF, and it pops off. And so Dean's just like, oh, clearly now it's not a witch, it's a ghost. And Sam wants to point out that it is a museum, and they are always filled with ADHD ghosts and their tethers. And I'm just like, can they make a ghost Adderall so they can move on? Is that all they need, is something to like help them go through? So like, here's some Adderall, here's some Ritalin, and then they can focus and move on. Just saying, that's a way they can help them.
Maybe so. So
it seems better than what they're doing to them.
We cut and we find.
Oh, okay. Before you're moving on, then Dean also calls a ghost chain rattlers, and I appreciate that term for them.
Chain rattlers.
Yeah. So we go from there to the diner.
Yeah, and so we know where Kelly Klein is. So and she orders orange juice.
That's all she can afford, because they show her like looking through her wallet and she's paying cash. So she's got no money and she needs a small orange juice. And this waitress
is rude.
She is very okay. First, she asks when she's due, and I feel like that's still a little intrusive. Like, I know people ask that all the time, but it feels a little too personal. But I would give it a pass, right?
Yeah. Because Kelly's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So then the waitress has a commentary on life before and after kids.
And when she's like, when she has a kid, her life is over, but she'll love the little devil. And then she walks away and her eyes flash blue. And we realize that this was an angel the whole time. Oh, no.
Yeah. Woof. All right. So we've got Dean wandering around the museum playing with an Aztec killing knife. And he gets really excited about an Aztec ghost idea.
Yeah. I also enjoy the idea of Aztec ghost. That would have been fun, but no, that's not what we're doing. Sam has found something from a brigantine called the Star that sunk in a storm and is currently on loan from the Maritime Museum in Andover, Mass. See, that's where it says Mass. I'm not writing that. It's just anymore. It's too long.
Yeah.
And Sam continues and says it was sunk in a storm in 1723, which triggers Dean to know something about something.
He does know something about this ship specifically. And Sam's given him the rundown of where this ship was from to kind of help jog his memory. And Dean remembers that this is the ship that Gavin MacLeod, Crowley's kid, was supposed to be on this ship and supposed to die on this ship.
And that's what he knows, Gavin MacLeod. So that's a good time for us to cut from there back to Crowley's, where Lucifer is just cracking himself up over how sad Crowley is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Crowley's not amused, so he's going to try to make Lucifer clean the floor with his tongue. But Lucifer is still like, whatever. You think like, Kelly's still out there with my baby. And Crowley's like, no, Sam and Dean got rid of the baby. And Lucifer's like, no, I can feel it. Yeah. And Crowley's pretty upset about this information. But in the meantime, his phone rings and it's Dean saying that he needs a favor. But Crowley is so pissed that the baby's alive that he is like, WTF. And so Sam's like, I guess this isn't the best time to ask you to get in touch with Gavin for us. And Crowley is like, fix this before it hatches, and then we can talk about Gavin.
Well, Dean does point out that technically, because they didn't hunt down Gavin the first time when Crowley just let him live, that they really do, that he owes them for that. So he does need to think about that. But Lucifer was listening the whole time. And Lucifer then is fake bonding over them both being single fathers and wants to know when you let them date.
Oh, gosh. So we see two women, teachers loading a bunch of schoolgirls in uniforms onto a bus at the museum. And we see a little cutaway of a locket being dropped by somebody into the pocket of one of the teachers.
Yep. So it's like shoplifting, but it's by a ghost, so it doesn't count.
But it belongs to the ghost. Is it shoplifting or?
I don't know. I mean, technically that was in the ghost's possession. So, but I believe the museum would still probably prosecute the teacher. So she steals an artifact, even though she doesn't know it. And we go back to the museum at night where the boys are sitting in a dark museum with Rowena, who wants to know what's in it for her.
Yeah, because she's like, you still owe me for Arkansas. And they're like, yes, sure. But, we need your help finding the one and only eyewitness to the star. So, it's just something you'll really like. So I think you should help us. But so we cut from there to Kelly walking down an alley first. And then a dude is chasing her.
She has no coat on. She is just very like
weird. Why is she just,
like unhoused just in the street now? And I'm like, what the fuck? Why didn't you go back to your apartment and get a coat? I don't understand what's happening here. But so she is now cold on the street and being followed by one angel. And then I was like, maybe the baby keeps her warm. Like maybe that's happening. I don't know. But then, oh no, there are two angels and they have angel blades.
But then a new yellow-eyed angel a demon, excuse me, a yellow-eyed demon shows up. And we know, because we figured out this is Dagon, because we got a tease about this.
Dagon, it's Dagon. And she kills the angels and says, come with me if you want to live, to Kelly. Because of course.
Eh,
that was funny. So immediately I'm like, okay, I kind of like your quips. And, you know, I also like your style. So we go from there into a warehouse because we haven't been in one for a while. And Kelly is upset that Dagon made the people explode.
They did. The people did get exploded. And she's like, that's what you're upset about, Rosemary? Ha ha ha. And she's amused that Kelly buys into human propaganda and asked if Sunday school teachers taught her that Lucifer was actually an archangel, and pointed out the angels want her dead because of her innocent child. And
she explains nature versus nurture.
Yes, and like it's all in the upbringing. He could save us all. Interesting, she says he, but.
So Kelly gets a gender reveal, and then Dagon offers her protection.
Yeah. They all want you dead. I'll protect you. Ooh, okay. And we cut back to a bus station where a bus has arrived from Cedar Rapids, and Gavin meets up with Sam and Dean. And he's there because they lied and told him that Crowley was ill.
But they're all being very cordial with each other. And it's very, like, Gavin seems like a very nice person. Mm-hmm. And so they show Gavin a picture of the star, which he recognizes and kind of gets excited about. And then they're like, hey, by the way, here's your grandmother. Ta-da!
Oh, yeah. Your dad's not dying. Here's the ship you were supposed to die on. Would you like to meet your grandmother?
Yeah.
It's a lot. And Ramina's very excited because she says that Gavin looks just like her father when he was young. So some familiar resemblances. So at the museum, Gavin goes to the museum with them, and he's talking about remembering the ship and that most of the people on it were pretty ordinary representation of the community. And then one of their, but specifically notes one of their teachers was on the ship, Mistress Alloway. And he's looking at all this other info, and he finds a picture in a book of the inventory of a locket that he bought for Fiona Duncan. That was his love, and he had to, she just really wanted to go to America with him. And, but he's confused why the locket's there if he didn't go to America. So apparently she was going to beg to come along. And when she was going to come meet him at his place, that's when Abaddon showed up at his place and fucked up the timeline.
Right. So Fiona mistakenly thought that he was already gone. And so then she probably died with unfinished business and became a ghost. And Gavin,
with a broken heart.
Yeah, and Gavin doesn't like this. And they look for the locket and discover it's gone. And in the finding aid that Gavin was looking at, there is something that you have to realize, that her locket was placed into storage and added only to the exhibit 6 months prior to this episode, which explains why only recently, this is on the wiki, that she only recently started attacking teachers. So that's why that explains that. And the star was built in Glasgow, Scotland, and to remind everyone that it was laid anchor in Leith, Scotland, sank off the coast of New England, USA, during a storm in 1723, where it lay at the bottom of the ocean until 1981, where it was excavated and its pieces were put on display as part of the Treasures from the Deep exhibit at the Maritime Museum at Andover, where Rufus was able to steal Gavin's signet ring in Weekend at Bobby's. And the ship was big. It was 91 feet with its beam at 24 feet. It weighed 215 tons. But we're going to talk about another ship that's from Scotland that also weighed a lot and probably weighed more than that. So it's time for some lore. And for this week, we're going to talk about the Queen Mary.
Oh.
Now, In everything I've read, it seems like you're not supposed to put the in front of it, and you're just supposed to say Queen Mary. And I'm not going to do that because that makes my head hurt. So I'm going to use the word the, and I'm sorry if that offends anybody. I'm not really sorry because it sounds weird. It just sounds weird. Because I'm not talking about the queen. I'm talking about the ship. Yeah. So we're talking about a ship, if you did not know. And the Queen Mary's story begins in 1930 with her construction in Clydebank, Scotland. And it took 4 years to build her, and they had to widen a river for her launch. The legend attached to her naming is that it was an accident. The Cunard directors had planned to name her Victoria in their tradition of naming their ships in an IA. So Victoria would have fit that. So when they asked King George for his blessing of the ship with we have decided to name our new ship after England's greatest queen, the king responded, my wife, Queen Mary, will be delighted that you are naming the ship after her. And that is how, instead of naming her Victoria, she became known as the Queen Mary. I don't know if that's true, but I think that's cute. Mm-hmm. So her maiden voyage was on May 27th, 1936, and it was super luxurious with 2 indoor swimming pools, 2 cocktail bars, beauty salons, children's nurseries for all 3 classes being of the ship. There's middle, general, and steerage probably. I don't know. I should know that, but let's go. I know there's a first, and then there's 2 other ones.
There you go.
Yeah. And so there's 2 cocktail bars. There was a music studio, a lecture hall, telephone connectivity to anywhere in the world, which is crazy on a boat during that time. That makes my head hurt a little bit. Outdoor paddle tennis courts, which I'm just wondering, is that ping pong?
It's probably closer to pickleball.
Yeah. And
early pickleball.
And early pickleball. Fucking pickleball. And there was fancy air conditioning in a lot of places. Mm-hmm. The ship also had a Jewish prayer room, mainly as a fuck you to the anti-Semitism growing in Nazi Germany, which is kind of like in the main cabin class dining room, there was a map of the transatlantic crossing with 2 tracks with the winter spring routes, which were further south because of icebergs, and the summer autumn route. And during the crossing, a small motorized model of the Queen Mary would travel along the mural to show the ship's progress. I would just be in front of that thing all day and just be like,
that's funny. I like that.
Yeah. But the fanciness of the Queen Mary is not why we are talking about her, or frankly, why you have ever heard of her in the first place. We know the Queen Mary because it is haunted as fuck. And on the day the RMS Queen Mary launched, Lady Mabel Fortescue Harrison, a well-known British psychic, is quoted as predicting, the Queen Mary will know her greatest fame and popularity when she never sails another mile or carries another fare-paying passenger.
Oh.
So is the Queen Mary haunted? Or is it all just one big corporate scam and I'm about to ruin something else fun for you? Okay, so first let me say I have stayed on the Queen Mary. I have done their haunted tour. The scariest thing I saw were the blisters on my feet after walking up and down all the stairs. That ship is massive. But I saw nothing of the paranormal sort during my visit. No ghosties. Sad. Very sad. I wanted them to come out and they said no.
They said nah.
No. And so kind of like, let's talk about death, right? So if there's ghosts, there's generally going to be death. To make the ghost. And there have been numerous deaths on the ship, as to be expected for something that was in service for as long as this was. It operated as a liner from 1936 through 1967. According to Bill Winberg, an archivist for the Queen Mary, the death count since she launched in 1936 was 47. However, that doesn't include the first recorded death, which happened before the launch even happened, when during construction, a worker named John Brown fell to his death from a scaffold. The first death at sea occurred on its maiden voyage on the return trip when Arthur John Francis Goldberg fractured his skull while scrubbing the decks on June 8th, 1836, and he was buried at sea.
Yikes.
Yeah, and that number also does not include the number of those who died during the Queen Mary's service during World War II, when soldiers were literally just dying from heat. We know that during this period, there is a burial at sea every 4 hours, said Winberg. Apparently, soldiers would also just jump off the ship when it left the dock, and those men may have died too or made it back to shore. Basically, conscripted people were like, I don't want to do this, bye, and jumped off, right? During the war, the ship was painted gray and became known as the Gray Ghost. They took out everything that was unnecessary. So it was a total of 6 miles of carpet, 220 cases of china, crystal, and silver services, tapestries, and paintings were all removed. So it's amazing. If you see the size of the ship, just imagine how much stuff they took out in order to convert this. And she became one of the fastest troop ships in the war, and the U-boats could not catch her. The Grey Ghost made the record for the most passengers ever transported on one vessel when they carried 15,740 soldiers and 943 crew. So for a total of 16,683 people on one fucking boat at one time. And that was in July of 1943. Churchill would hitch rides on her and listed on the passengers as Colonel Warden. He even signed the D-Day Declaration on board, so he was on there quite a bit. The Queen Mary covered over 600,000 miles across the world's oceans by the end of the war, carrying more than 800,000 troops. The one story about her wartime life that would definitely influence the haunting legends happened when Queen Mary sank one of her escort ships, the HMS Kurosawa. It's Curacoa. And I'm just saying, like, that's how I pronounce it.
Curacao, but with
Curacao, yeah. Mm-hmm. So 338 lives were lost. And the captain of each ship thought they had the right of way. Mm-hmm. The Queen Mary was moving in an evasive zigzag pattern in order to keep the U-boats from getting her. And Commodore Sir Cyril Gordon Illingworth, commanding Queen Mary, maintained the zigzag pattern, anticipating that the cruiser was going to alter its course. However, Captain John Wilford Boutwood of the Curacao held fast to the liner's mean course, prioritizing the defense of the liner against potential enemy aircraft. So that's what he was like, well, this is my mission, so I'm going to stick to that. So the Queen Mary sliced it in half, but it didn't stop due to the risk of U-boat attacks. It was told stop for nothing. So they sliced through this cruiser and kept going. Oof. Boats were later sent to conduct a rescue, but only 101 crew members survived. And to top it all off, it was kept secret until after the war. Everyone involved was sworn to secrecy. After the war, there was a trial, and the blame was totally put on Curaçao's officers. However, that was appealed and modified, so 2/3 went to them and 1/3 went to Cunard. So... Wow. The most infamous death is probably that of John Petter, a young quote-unquote greaser who was caught in a watertight door number 13. He was split in half in 1966.
Wait, a greaser was caught in door number 13?
Yes. Let's go with that.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, the final recorded death was on the ship's last voyage in 1967 when Leonard Horsburgh, a fish cook, had heat stroke and died. So those are kind of an overview of the deaths, but I want to remember no official deaths have ever been recorded in either of the pools. There's a first class and a second class pool, and there are no reports of there ever being dismembered bodies. Okay, so keep that in mind as we talk about the ghosts. According to usghostadventures.com, there are said to be up to 150 ghosts on the ship. One of that is said to be that of John Petter, the bisected crew member. After his death, there have been reports of frightened guard dogs, shadow figures, metallic sounds like a door slamming shut, and apparitions which are said to match old photographs of John Petter.
Okay.
At the front of the ship, the side of the collision with the Curacao, witnesses have reported hearing sounds like metal crushing, frantic banging against the hull, men screaming, and the unmistakable sound of rushing water. The engine room is said to have an apparition of a man who fades into the metal of the pipes. People have said that sounds appear to follow him around. There have also been cold spots reported. And the engine room is just creepy because it's a giant fucking engine room. And those things, like, it's really dark and there's just really big machinery all around you and pipes and things that I don't know what the fuck they do, and like the big knobby turn things that you're not supposed to turn, and like doors that go in place that you want to touch everything, but you can't touch because you know it's all all hot, and even if it's just sitting there, it's not doing anything. Yeah. So I can't imagine what it was like when it was actually running as an engine. So it's natural that it just sounds like it's haunted. And frankly, like even if you're on a regular cruise ship now and you go down to the engine room, like those all kind of feel like they're haunted.
It's so creepy.
Yeah. So up at the bridge, people have seen...
It's dark and industrial and damp and hot and
just noises you don't know, right?
Yeah.
Lots of ding, 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 dings. So up at the bridge, people have seen apparitions of ship officers, which appear briefly, then they dissolve into the mist. So the pools have had a ton of reported activity, although, as I said earlier, nobody was reported to ever having died in either. One of the most famous ghosts is a little girl who haunts the pool area. She is known as Jackie. We came into the pool area and I heard giggling, the sound of a little girl playing in the area. And at that point, I noticed there was splashing, said Kathy Love, a maintenance supervisor on the ship. The splashing stopped, the giggling continued, and we observed the wet footprints of a small child walking across the locker room. I know that I saw what I saw. I saw what I saw. I'm not sure exactly why I saw it, but I know it was there. Also, the psychic Peter James has recordings of a 10-minute conversation with Jackie. Some psychics have suggested...
long conversation.
Yeah, it's pretty long. You can go on YouTube and listen to it. There's also a really popular thing to do YouTube videos on the Queen Mary. It's really popular.
Yeah.
So some psychics have suggested that the pools are vortexes for spirits, and because when you look at them, at least one of them is closed off. One of them you could only see for a few minutes, and you could only see it because like the floor is caving in, and so they're just like they only let a few people go at a time. And so I'm like, I think that's where the energy is coming from, because I was terrified I was going to fall through the floor, and so maybe that's what's creating the vortex, right? It's just all people are like, please don't let me fall through this floor, but
their own life is flashing before their eyes and they're freaking creating a weird moment.
But again, also dark, haunted, empty swimming pools always look haunted. I feel like they do. There's just something about an empty swimming pool. And so there also is the ghost haunting of Sir Winston's restaurant. There's a man there known as the Dude, but not Lebowski Dude. This spirit is described as appearing in a top hat and tails with slick back hair. I really want you to see this one. Yeah. He's most often seen near the bar, where he reportedly has cleared his throat to get attention before vanishing into a nearby wall, which I just think that's a cheeky ghost and I like it. See me! And then bye.
Bye. He's out.
What?
He's out. He's did you see me or not?
Look at me! Okay, bye. And speaking of Sir Winston, people have seen Winston Churchill's ghost near his private quarters and on the promenade, on the sun and sports decks. And the smell of cigar smoke is often reported near his room and on the M deck. People have reported seeing shadow people everywhere. They look like, shadow people. Also, there are ghost cats. I'm very sad that I did not get to see one of those.
Oh, ghost cats.
Ghost cats. The changing rooms near the first and third class pools are... that's not right. But basically, because near the pools are noted for numerous EVPs featuring meows. And ghosts, and people have guests, not ghosts. Guests have reported sensations of something invisible brushing up against their legs. Now, the room that is hyped as the most haunted is B340. And it's quite possible the haunting of that room is entirely due to Disney. And to understand that, we're going to have to talk about what happened to Queen Mary after she retired from being a cruise liner. So first, it retires in 1967. Then it opens as an aquarium museum that was curated by Jacques Cousteau. And that lasted only a few years due to apparently poor treatment of the sea life. And
Jacques Cousteau.
Not Jacques Cousteau. Which is very upsetting. Like, I don't want to know. I was one of those things where it was like, I just saw that sentence. So like,
we're skim the next thing.
I'm not diving into that one any further. I don't want to know.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. And apparently there was also mismanagement of funds, continued to change hands. Pacific Southwest Airlines owned it, then Hyatt, and then the Rather Corporation. In 1988, Disney acquired the Queen Mary when they bought the Rather Corporation to try to get the Disneyland Hotel. And at first they didn't know what they were going to do with the ship. In 1990, Disney announced they were going to open Port Disney, with hotels, a monorail, and theme park. So this would be on Long Beach, right? And that would never happen. But what did happen was the uptick of ghost stories about the ship. Recognizing a cash cow, Disney offered the first ghost tours. They created the sick tour called Haunted Passages, which included a tour brochure that had a small child being drugged down a hallway by a ghost.
That's something.
That is something to put on a brochure, and it makes me want to go. So from a San Francisco Gate article, the tour took you to areas where people were murdered, crushed, drowned, or otherwise died during passage, said Todd James Pierce, host of the DHI podcast and author of several books on Disney.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I swear I saw it as a kid. It would have been late 80s, early 90s, so I'm trying to piece the timeline together.
Yeah, so a stop on that tour was B340, a then unused room where Disney installed Haunted Mansion style effects. And when you were in the room, floorboards would creak, faucets would turn on, disembodied voices would sound, and spooky things would appear in mirrors. The Haunted Passages tour was an attempt to more formally and theatrically build on some of the ghost legends related to the ship, Pierce explained. The tour was promoted with the ghostly image of John Patter's translucent body, a young engineer crushed on the ship, still standing in the boiler room, much in the way that ghosts in the Haunted Mansion appear as effective lighting and well-placed glass. Disney ditched the...
Y'all can't see me if you're just listening to this. My jaw is like on the floor.
Yeah, I had no idea about any of this. If I did know this, I forgot it, and I don't think I knew this. So
forgot that, yeah.
Disney.
You just went there a couple years ago.
I went there in 2024.
Yeah.
But my books that I bought there during this are in boxes. So anyways, Disney ditched the Port Disney idea in 1992, and the room B340 was sealed up, only to have its legend grow. And maybe if people think something is haunted enough, then it becomes haunted. The paranormal researcher Greg Newkirk said, even though the haunted attraction at the Queen Mary is long gone, the memories remain. Over time, these memories can turn into legends, stripping away the fictional origins one retelling at a time, and eventually legends can turn into actual hauntings. Because there are very specific stories that are being repeated over and over again, and people are concentrating on these stories. And maybe that's enough to create these entities or hauntings, right? That's what's drawing up all these people almost. Yeah. So that's one possibility. The current B340 is decorated with scary pics and a Ouija board to hype it up even more.
Of course it is.
And the ship obviously the ship is now owned by the city of Long Beach, and it was city of Long Beach.
Yeah.
And it offers numerous paranormal tours, and now even has Jackie's Spirit Shop in the third class dining lounge, where you can buy spooky items like Mad Libs and hand soap, and those products are available online. I would like to say the idea for Port Disney was not entirely abandoned. They were later incorporated into Tokyo Disney Sea, which was completed in 2001. And that park notably features a model of the Queen Mary. There is a replica of the Queen Mary in Tokyo.
That's so wild.
The whole the Tokyo Disney Sea itself is a mind fuck. It is a whole bunch of different islands and it's all at sea. And now I just want to go to Tokyo Disney Sea and go to the Queen Mary there's a Tower of Terror on that island, on the Queen Mary.
Whoa.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the story of the Queen Mary, the other haunted Scottish ship. And
don't they do a tattoo and rockabilly festival there too?
Yes, they've done a lot of things like that there. One of my friends who's very rockabilly was like, that's the only place she would stay, which is like, when I'm in California, I only stay at the Queen Mary. But it's needed so much. It needs a lot of work. It's not going to be safe for long. They really need to throw some money into it. And that's not just, that's what I read. So, but it's still, it's still amazing. If you haven't been there, I would it's really to see anything that man-made that was that huge and something that there's a lot of history attached to it.
Yeah.
And anything like that had that many people on it. If you think about energy at all, if you think that has anything to do with hauntings, and that seems like a pretty, all that in leftover shit, right? I don't know.
For real.
So it carries there's definitely a feeling on the ship, whether or not I didn't feel any ghost feelings, but there's definitely that weight of history and the weight of somewhat of the tragedy, but also just kind of how impressive it is.
Yeah.
So, recommend going, because who knows how long is going to be allowed to be on float. You're going to be allowed to be on board it. Just saying. So, yeah. All right. So we're going to go to a motel
with Mr. Ketch and Mary. And he's like, oh, we should totally go have a drink. And he's like,
she shoots him down.
And then he's like, you just need to disengage from your children, Mom. And she's like, he's like, yeah, work needs to come first. And she's like, nothing comes before family. Mr. Ketch might have just said the wrong thing.
Yeah, I mean, he tells her that family makes her softer and weaker, and just punch him in the nuts, Mary. Then he starts in on that hunting Mary is the best Mary, and it scares her. And once again, I just say, punch him in the nuts, Mary.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so she walks off. But back at the museum, Sam and Dean are asking Dr. Ochoa what happened to the missing locket. And also, BT Dub, was there a school tour recently? She's like, yeah, I don't know about that locket. It should be there. And also, the Pembroke Day School for Girls was just here. And they're like, God damn it. So they go to, we cut to two teachers living.
We cut to the most awesome Vampire Academy ever. I don't know what children go to the school, but clearly only vampires go here. So these two teachers that we met earlier from the bus are sitting in front of this fireplace in like two leather wingback chairs.
Gryffindor common room.
They have no desk. They're just like grading papers in their laps. They don't even have books to like balance these papers on it.
In leather armchairs, discussing having a glass of wine.
Well, yeah, they want to get drunk. First, they were drinking.
They were not. To be clear, they weren't grading while drunk. They were discussing.
But they're about to get hammered, and they grade while drunk all the time. What all teachers do. So the lights start flickering, and that apparently happens there all the time. So one of them goes to check the breaker, where we see another fireplace that's lit. What the fuck is this place?
I don't know. But we're starting to get the noises. We're starting to get the cold. One teacher's trying to like close a window that's got a breeze, but the window's closed. It's a whole thing. But we finally see our ghost. And it is in a cloak with a big hood on it. And it attacks the teacher. And one of the teachers. And the other one sees this happening and closes the doors.
Just abandoned her. She's just like, bam, like, sorry. No one's gonna save you.
Save myself. And so I'm like, damn. But as that happens, Sam and Dean run in and have their rock salt loaded shotgun to shoot the ghost. And Gavin and Rowena are there with them to help determine if this actually is Fiona. So, all right. So Gavin's not like super stoked on this, but he sits down and he is going to get ready. And he starts reading this spell. And there's like candles and stuff. And he calls out. He does the spell, but then he just calls out to her. And we get a breeze and the ghost appears.
Hi, Gavin. Yeah. And then there's a waterlogged ghost who transforms herself into Fiona. And this also, like, did you think of Shrek this whole time?
It's the opposite. It's like a Shrek backwards. Yeah. It's a little Shreky. And she's upset though. And she's like, you abandoned me. I came to you. You weren't there. And he's trying to explain, but she's like, then I got on the ship. And
you don't want to know what happened. The ship, that crew fucked me up on that ship. You left
awful.
me on, and none of the passengers helped her. And her teacher said she deserved it for being a hussy. And so fuck Mrs. Alloway. But apparently that is also what Fiona has decided to do. And she has said, fuck all you teachers. I blame all of you. You're all going down.
Seems like a broad brush to paint with, but yes,
she has a grudge. She has decided she is going to have vengeance on this. So Gavin is going to go to the boys and was like, wants to talk about what's went, and she's just a vengeful spirit now.
Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, her bones are going to be at the bottom of the Atlantic, so we need to find that locket. And Gavin's just super upset. He's like, but we can't bring back the people that she killed, and this just sucks. But Sam and Dean are like, actually, about that, if she never died a horrible death, then none of this would have happened. And Rowena's like, ooh, tampering with time again? Here we go. So everybody's not stoked on this, but basically they're saying they need to set things right and undo Abaddon yanking Gavin from his timeline so that things go back to how they should have been, which would be that Gavin would have died with or without Fiona. Either way, he would have died on the ship and she wouldn't be sad or
she won't be bitter because she will have known what happened to him. So, because they're both going to die on the ship together. So Gavin's on board with this plan, but Crowley is not, and he has just appeared. And he tries to tip Gavin with his modern life and Hooters, but Gavin just called him to say goodbye.
Yeah, he's like, look, I made up my mind. That's it. And Rowena's like, oh, let him go. He's not like us. He believes in things.
Aww.
And he's doing what he believes is right. Okay.
So Rowena freezes Crowley so he can't stop him. And they leave poor Mark Sheppard in this unfortunate position of having his arm raised. And I really hope they didn't have to repeat this scene over and over again because I just kept thinking about like, oh my God, your arm has to suck holding it up in that position.
Yeah. Yep. So we go to the bunker with Sam and Dean and Gavin. And Sam does a spell where he cuts Gavin's hand and they bleed and he's doing the sigil on the wall and they're trying the spell that their grandfather and Abaddon did. And, but it's been tweaked by Rowena. So
it's a time travel spell that blood calls to blood. So it is probably not that hard to be like, you're going to call to yourself. So after Sam paints the sigil on the wall, they say goodbye and Sam thanks him for being a good person.
Yeah, basically. And they're all kind of teared up and Fiona appears and they both glow and disappear.
Yep.
Together.
So after that's done, Sam, we go to the next day where after that happens. We're not quite sure what the time passage is there. But Sam is searching for the murders and they didn't happen and the teachers are alive. But Sam and Dean remember everything that happened.
Yeah. And guess who shows up? But Mary. And she's got bags of burgers and beer. And Dean's all bummed about how long it's been. And she lies again and says she's been jogging and doing Tai Chi and working on meditation and melting Rougarou brains. So we get some honesty in there. And she
confesses.
Yeah. She tells them she's been working with the British Men of Letters.
The BMOL. The BMOLs. I was trying to get an acronym for them. Just really wasn't working. It doesn't work. And then Sam's like, do you remember about my feet? And
my poor foot.
My foot. Look at it. They burned my foot. And she's like, but they're doing good work and there's stuff to learn for them. And Dean's like, look at my face. Look at my face, Mary. Yes. And Sam's like, we've got our own toolkit and that's fine. And also, remember my feet?
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't fucking trust them. Period. And so Dean's like, so where does this leave us? And she's like, same as always. We're family. I just need you to hear me out.
No, we can try that, Mary. So we're going to go to a bus station. I'm like, why is Rowena at a bus station?
So weird. And she's drinking out of a thermos. And
I mean,
Crowley
she looks
appears.
like she fits in there. Like she looks like she should be. But like, why? Why are you not? I don't know. I guess I can't see Rowena at an airport, like sitting out, waiting for the gate agents, waiting for her number to board.
Not waiting for travel. So Crowley appears and he's mad. And he's like, you did this on purpose. You sent away my grandson, or your own grandson, for very spiteful reasons. And he wants to know why. And she's like, look, I want you to remember. We get a flashback. Something I kind of forgotten, candidly.
I remember Oscar.
Yes, she was forced to kill the son she liked better than Crowley. Ouch. Oscar.
Pitter-patter.
Yes, it's our pitter-patter, blood splatter. We get a full scene of her killing him by stabbing him in the neck. It's very distressing. And yeah. And so he's like, all that drivel about doing the right thing. She's like, I got payback and now I get to watch you suffer the loss of a child.
It was the right thing for her. And who is better to crush Crowley's shriveled heart than Rowena? So,
Damn.
wow. Yeah. So
Damn.
she did get something out of it. So we don't, I mean, in the whole, the whole complicated, did Rowena ever really like Gavin? Was that all just a plot? Just also she could fucking destroy Crowley? Maybe. But so then she, for some reason, gets on a bus.
Yeah.
Get off the bus. I'm just really going to harp on it. Get off the bus, Rowena. You deserve better. Get a car.
Well, she probably doesn't want to drive. I don't know.
Get a driver.
I can't see her driving. I don't know. Well, Play with Fire by Rolling Stones kicks in, and we do kind of a bunch of a shoot around of all the scenes.
It's like a montage.
Yeah. We got Lucifer chained up in his chair. We've got Mary talking to Sam and Dean. We got Crowley at the bus station. Dagon and Kelly leaving the warehouse. And then at the very end, we get Lucifer calling out to Dagon.
Uh-oh. What's gonna happen? I don't know. Oh, so before we talk about that, are there any teachers to talk about?
Casting couch. It's the casting couch. Were they on that show that time with that guy? La 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 la.
Yeah, we've got a couple of folks on our cast to talk about. I'm going to start with Dagon, though, played by Ali On. She's been in episodes of Ugly Betty, Law and Order SVU, Blue Bloods, Nurse Jackie, and Orange is the New Black. She is a recurring character named Carly on the series Billions. She is Alice in the series Agatha All Day. Or no, what is it? Agatha All... Yeah, what is that show?
Was it Agatha All Year?
Something. That one. And the Agatha All Along. Sorry.
Agatha All Along. Oh my God. Why could I not remember the name?
And then she's
one of the best shows that came out last year. Okay.
And then she's Idra in the series The Diplomat. Then we have one of our teachers was named Elizabeth. The real name is Susie Lee. She's been in episodes of Fringe, Frequency, A Million Little Things, and The Good Doctor. Our scout leader was played by Colby Wilson. He passed away in 2021 at the age of 36. Was pretty young. It's kind of sad, but before that he was in episodes of Smallville, Psych, Fringe, Lucifer, Arrow, Travelers, and Maid, and was in She's the Man. It's a movie. Anyways, Dr. Daisy Ochoa was played by Karina Atkinson. And she's been in episodes of Lucifer, Wayward Pines, Arrow, The Last of Us, Murder in a Small Town, Tracker, and The Hunting Party. She's also done a lot of Christmas Hallmark. Our waitress Angel was played by Jennifer Kitchen. She's been in episodes of Smallville, 4400, Fringe, Flash, iZombie, Riverdale, Lucky Hank, Yellow Jackets, Murder in a Small Town, and School Spirits. And then... yeah, that's our main ones that we've got from this episode. So there we go.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you think?
I'm glad that Mary's finally facing down the situation of her splitting her time with Men of Letters and Sam and Dean, British Men of Letters and Sam and Dean. I think that's important. I thought it was a kind of a cool wrap up to at least go back and get the backstory, kind of close the loop on Gavin. And the rest of it, the storyline with the Lucifer and Crowley is a little painful, but that's what I got.
Yeah. I mean,
it's hard to watch characters do things you think are stupid. And you're just like, no, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I enjoy the McLeod family and getting all three of them together. And the Rowena double cross is so classic Rowena, but in a way that if you didn't see it coming, and it just I appreciate when she's sneaky, and when it kind of smacks you upside the head, you didn't realize oh, that's really the whole reason that she did that. Yeah. Even though we all kind of bought in that she was here for Gavin, but in the end, that also means that Gavin thought his grandmother was there for her. There was a scene that was cut out from this where Rowena was telling Gavin something about how, I forget what it was. It was something about how Like it was how she abandoned Fergus when he was 8, and kind of goes into that story, and he kind of learns what a shitty mother she was, and so that got cut out, which is interesting. I think would have made the double cross a little, but I think keeping it out made it hurt more, because then you never get to see Gavin have a bad view of her.
Yeah, but I mean, that also is like better. I don't know. You just met your grandmother for the first time, and you don't have a relationship or history. Shouldn't you just is it better to just have like a semi-positive view and go back in time and die? I don't know.
I think so. I mean,
is she all bad? Like, I also ask, I believe she was all in on like the revenge thing, but I think she was also truthful when she said he's not like us.
Yeah,
that wasn't false.
We don't really know how she felt about him.
She knew the benefit of how she could hurt Crowley, but I don't know if she necessarily had a feeling about Gavin. I think she did think that he wasn't like
that. And I don't think this is what I don't think Sam and Dean meant it in that way. And then they'd probably be like, what? But anyways. Yeah. So I did appreciate that. And I mean, yes, I kind of get bored of Crowley trying to go after Lucifer in this way, because it's like, babe,
you could have won. You had him.
Him going to the cage is you winning. You understand that? No, you don't. It's not about the pride thing, sweetie. Hubris is going to be your downfall. He don't need to lick the floor. He doesn't. Just let him. Oh, okay. We're going to do this again, aren't we? Yeah. You never learn, do you? I'm not spoiling anything. It's never going to end well for Crowley when he does this.
No, I can't imagine it ending well.
Learn your lesson.
No, he doesn't learn lessons.
All right. Okay, so Crowley will never learn his lesson on that. Cheers, jerk.
Cheers, bitch.
Devil's Trap Podcast is a Don't Get It production. Meow.
Devil's Trap Podcast is part of the Ship It Studios Podcast Network. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Devil's Trap Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at Devil's Trap Podcast, Twitter at Devil's Trap Pod, or you can email us at devilstrap@devilstrappodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave reviews, and share with all your friends. We're at all your favorite podcast outlets and at devilstrappodcast.com. I'm Babe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.